following announcement has been paid for by the new
Wealth Management Advisory Club.
Hey everybody, it's the president of the Wealth Management Advisory Club, Jack Mitch here, welcoming you to another exciting meeting for WMA. But before I send you guys off to the meeting, just a couple of quick announcements we have to make on our end. First of all, our bonus meetings. So obviously, I know most of you did see our social media pages about our meeting room meeting location getting moved. Thankfully, we actually got that resolved. Funny enough, I actually, before the semester began, I looked up rooms at FDU to see which it was available. Originally, I thought Management Room 11 was open because if you go on self-service, for anyone who goes to FDU, you probably know what that is. But basically, no one was using that room. So I go in the room, and one kid comes in, like, oh, do you have a class in here? I'm like, yes. So I got up, left, and went to Management Room 13 because thankfully the door's open. I can happily say this now, that starting next Tuesday, all bonus meetings will be in Mansion Room 13. Again, they will not be in Mansion Room 11, they will be in Mansion Room 13. So if anyone's wondering where that is, if you basically go into the mansion, you go up those stairs, you make the right. When you're facing forward, you see Room 12. On your right is Room 11. On your left, Room 13. It's the one that's the keypad on it. Hopefully we're not going to have any problems getting into that room. So again, hopefully we don't have any problems with that. And again, the meetings will still be on Zoom and on our club social media accounts for all of our Metro members to use. And speaking of Metro members, yes, I know you guys have been waiting a long time for this, and I can finally say this now, that starting this meeting, all of our meetings on Metro are now in person for not only our Thursday meetings, but for our bonus meetings as well. Now, I do have to throw a disclaimer there because I know this is actually post-meeting. We did have a problem getting the room set up there because apparently for some reason we tried to get a room with the Zoom cart in there, and unfortunately the room that we actually got did not have the Zoom cart, which is unfortunate, and I apologize that happened. Me and Kevin were literally just going frantically trying to find someone from IT to get an HDMI cord, trying to get that all set up. Hopefully by next week we will have a new room on Metro campus, and hopefully this time this will be the permanent room. So again, guys, please stay tuned for that because I will be making that announcement at some point next week. Hopefully by next Tuesday, I'll have that room locked so that way we're able to, get you guys in person at Metro. And I just want to say a couple of things before I get to our sponsor. Within the first two meetings of the semester, we here at the WMA had broken a lot of records. Not only club records, but also FD Silverman Business Club records. Within the first two meetings for our club, we've broken the record for the most amount of people that watched the meeting on Rumble live. The record now is 12. Also, we broke our getter record. The first meeting we had, 873 people watched the meeting live. And our second meeting that we had Tuesday night, 946 people watched it live. I'm not joking when I say that. 946 people. And we actually broke the most amount of people that watched the meeting live in live time when the meeting happened. So, 4 to 5, 5 to 6, at 984. And that was on Tuesday. Thursday, it was 900 flat. Now that we broke the record for the most amount of people at a meeting at any FD Silverman club. And within the first two meetings that we've had this semester, the combined total we've had, 1,884 people. Oh my God. Like I said in the beginning of the semester, this is going to be our biggest semester ever, and we are bringing the big names, and we're breaking records while we're doing it. So again, guys, thank you guys so much for all the love and support you guys have given us every single week. And also just want to mention one other thing that I just found out, that actually our Thursday meeting that we just did is actually our second most popular meeting we've ever had. The first one, actually, anyone who actually does know this, is actually the meeting we had the spring 2022 where we had Peter Olinto from Becker and Wiley come in. And Gloria actually is now the second most viewed meeting we've had. And again, thank you guys for all the views, the comments, the likes. Thank you guys so much for that. So, with that away, I just have one more thing to talk about, and that is our sponsor. Yes, we are continuing to do our sponsors as we always do in WMA Club. We're going to start promoting them all over campus. So today, this meeting is sponsored by one of our corporate sponsors, and that is Gemini. Are you looking to make the most of your finances? Are you tired of paying high fees to traditional banks? Look no further than Gemini, the leading digital currency platform. At Gemini, they make it easy to buy, sell, and store your digital currency. With their industry-leading security and insurance, you can rest assured that your funds are safe and secure from all those cyber attackers out there in the metaverse. Their intuitive and user-friendly platform allows you to quickly and easily buy and sell digital currencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, just to name a few. Plus, their low fees makes it affordable for you to actually get started. They also offer a wide range of other services, from tracking your portfolio performance to setting up recurring buys. Their platform makes it easy to stay in control of your finances. So why wait? Get started with Gemini today and start taking control of your finances. And if you click our link in our website, go to our sponsors page, and you click our link, you're actually able to get a free Gemini account. And I'm not joking when I say that. You could open up a free Gemini account for free, thanks to our partners at Gemini. Again, we'd like to thank Gemini for sponsoring today's meeting. And with that being said, that is all it for me. I'm going to send you guys to the meeting. And if you guys are ready, and I know I am most certainly am ready, let's
And now, our feature presentation.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Wealth Management Advisory Club meeting. Today, we have Louis F. Rosa for Build a Financial Future. I'm just going to read a little bit about him as I can pull up as I'm actually doing that. It's actually our first meeting in person, the Metro campus. So hello, anyone who's at our Metro campus in Dickinson Hall, room 1143, as I'm trying to pull up my little cheat sheet that I had here. Perfect. Have it here. Okay, so Louis is the founder of Build a Better Financial Future LLC, based in Henderson, Nevada. At age 11, Louis came to the U.S. from the Dominican Republic. Growing up in New York, Louis noticed the lack of financial literacy in his community and was inspired by his parents to work hard and pursue education. From participating as a Financial Planning Association NexGen ambassador and host to speaking at the CFP Board Center for Financial Planning Diversity Summit, Louis has used his platform to help spread financial literacy throughout media outreach, as well as encourage younger and diverse planners to join and thrive in the industry. He is the host of the On My Way to Wealth podcast, co-founder of the BlatinX Internship Program and LatinXcellence, an initiative that seeks to bring awareness to and help close the wealth gap in the Hispanic community. Louis was named one of the Investment News 40 Under 40 in 2019 and Financial Advisor 2020. Fun fact, he's actually the CFP Board Ambassador. So guys, please turn on your cameras. Please ask a lot of questions. Let's make this a fun meeting. And with that, Louis, I would allow you to take it away.
Thank you very much for the warm intro. Appreciate it. Welcome, everyone. Yeah, I want to tell you a little bit of my background, and then absolutely, if you have any questions, this is, I want it to be interactive, so feel free to raise your hands, come on camera, ask questions, by all means. This is what it's all about. So I came to the US at age 11 when I was just, pretty much getting started, got to the US. I lived in New York City, and probably not too far from your campus. It was Washington Heights, which is uptown Manhattan. And I didn't know we're back.
I apologize for that. We had some tech issues on my end, so you can continue.
No problem. Fast forward to when I graduated college in 2001. So feel free not to do the math on that. I went to the State University of New York Purchase College, SUNY Purchase. And they didn't have a financial planning major. The closest to that was when I graduated, they introduced a finance major, but it was already too late for me because I had already done 4 years and I would have had to do yet another year of college just to have finance as a major. So I ended up majoring in economics. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wanted to work with people, something related to numbers. And I really wasn't sure what that was, just because I wasn't exposed to it at home or in school. And ultimately, right when I was graduating, I was introduced to a certified financial planner professional, CFP, and he was in the process of expanding his practice. He was partners with a certified public accountant, a CPA, and together they did investment management, financial planning, and tax preparation for their clients. So they asked me if I wanted to join their company on a part-time basis. So at the time I was working in a mailroom at a law firm, just like sending out faxes and making copies and stuff. So I was like, all right, sure. Kept the job in the law firm full-time and then started working for him at night. And then I started learning what financial planning and wealth management was all about and sitting in on client meetings. And I got to see ultimately the impact that one can have in this profession in people's lives. And also the fact that it could be a very lucrative one as well. And I really fell in love with it. And so eventually they were able to offer me a full-time position. I left the mailroom, started working for this financial planner full-time. And I got really exposed to a lot of things related to a client's money life. I got my mortgage license, for example. So when people wanted to buy a home, I was able to facilitate the loan for them as a mortgage broker. I also got my life insurance license. So when people needed life insurance, I was able to help them get the right policy for them. We were doing tax returns, financial planning. A big part of the practice was also managing investments. So when people open up accounts, whether it was college plans for their kids or open up retirement accounts, or they had an old 401k from an old job, those kinds of things we were able to manage for them. So I got pretty well exposed to a wealth of different ways that one can help people, which is really what wealth management is all about. It's basically coordinating all of a client's resources. And sometimes it takes a team approach. It could be coordinating with a CPA or an estate attorney to make sure they have all their affairs in order and things like that, right? And I just fell in love with it. So ultimately, I ended up moving to Las Vegas, Henderson first, Henderson, Nevada, then Las Vegas, because my wife was switching careers. So I became, way before the pandemic, I became virtual. I started using Zoom back in 2016 when it wasn't that famous yet. I got to use Skype. I don't know if any of you use Skype anymore, but that was a thing back in the day. I work remotely. Most of my time is still in the East Coast. Meditate, journaling, reading, all that good stuff, right? At my desk by 8. I work from home right now because I actually own my own firm. So I don't need to commute anywhere. And I work mostly with people remotely. So I don't need to really have a physical office. So there's no really commute for me, which is great. So I work from home. Usually I find that I do my best work in the morning because I learned a while back that I'm not a good multitasker. So I can't have my Outlook email open and then try to work on a tax return or financial plan and go back and forth. So I decided that it's best for me to do concentrated work. One of the books I recently read was Atomic Habits by James Clear, and it really helped me to get that kind of focus. So in the morning for the first hour, I recently hired an assistant last August. So for that 1 hour, I just look at all the emails that came in. and then assign tasks to my assistant. All right, let's do this, let's do that, and so on, right? Make sure if I need to respond to anything that's under 5 minutes, I'll take care of it right then and there within that hour. Then I want to do concentrated work between 9 and 12. And by that is just focusing on something very specific that I need to do typically for a client. So for example, one of the designations that I have is IRS enrolled agent. And that allows me to not only prepare tax returns, but also if I had to, I can represent a client before the IRS. But that's not the kind of work I'm looking to do. I mainly got it just to become more knowledgeable in taxes and be able to help my clients with their tax returns and any tax questions that they had. So right now I'm doing a lot of tax returns. So normally from 9 to 12, I'll work on any tax returns I need to work on. If I have to work on a financial plan or maybe allocate a portfolio within an investment account, things like that, I would do that in the morning. And then I usually will have client meetings in the afternoon, starting around 12 or 1 o'clock, probably around 3. I try to keep it no more than 3 appointments a day because, there's a lot of brain power that goes into these calls. Some days are different because, for example, I have a podcast, so I need to have a content day. So on Fridays, I record. I do them over Zoom, so I record the video, I record the audio, and get everything ready to send it over to the editor. So Friday is usually my content days. I don't see clients on those days. There are some days where I meet with other colleagues as well. I think it's important to keep your education up, and that includes networking with people that are also doing the same thing, just to stay on top of things that are going on. So it's very important for me to be part of study groups. So they're very often I'm meeting with colleagues just to talk about what they're doing in their practices. Case studies, sometimes we'll talk about client scenarios, just another way to stay educated. And then some days I'm just taking webinars that are offered by different companies about different topics, new laws and things like that, just to stay abreast of the latest stuff so that I can help my clients and stay knowledgeable, and then also get my continuing education because you have to do a certain amount of hours per year in order to maintain your license. So that's pretty much what my day usually looks like. I try to stick to it as much as I can. Sometimes things happen, but for the most part, there shouldn't be any financial planning or investment management emergencies. So try to stick to it as much as I possibly can. All right. So any questions? Feel free to ask me anything. You can come on camera. You could just ask it, put it in the chat, whatever works for you.
Sorry, maybe I missed it. Where'd you go to school, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I went to SUNY Purchase in New York. Purchase College.
Yeah, you said that. Nice.
Yeah.
How'd you like that? How'd you like that experience?
It was great, because I had been living in New York City most of my life, between Dominican Republic and then New York City up until that point. So for me to go to outside of a densely populated area was quite the experience, living on campus. And at the time, it was 20 years ago or more. It seemed pretty remote to me. It was only 45 minutes from the city, but it was buses stopped running at 10, and that's it. You were just stuck on campus after a while.
Yeah, I thought that.
Yeah, so it was interesting. I really did like it though. On my second year, I became a resident assistant, and that was cool because I had to have my own room, and then they were paying for the room and board as well. And that was really helpful. So yeah, I had a great experience living on campus. And then my senior year, I went back home and just started commuting for my last year.
Okay, so I have a follow-up. You said you were an RA. Do you think that helped you career-wise, or was that
being a
something
resident
you threw on the
assistant?
resume? Yeah, was that something you could do was that a good thing to throw on the resume, or is it more just for the free housing?
Well, it's a great question. I think it helps you both ways. Obviously, there's the financial part of it, because now my overall bill from the school was a lot lower, right? Because they were paying for room and board, and also had my own room, which was amazing. But yeah, I think it also helps you with resume building, because you can demonstrate, it is a leadership role. You are in charge of an entire section or floor. You have to do programs to engage with the students. So I think it puts you in that capacity to be a leader. And I think there's something that you can certainly highlight in your resume. So if you have the opportunity to do it, there's definitely those upsides.
Awesome. Thank you.
Certainly. Great questions. Thank you. All right. So another question that I wanted to kind of talk about was the state of wealth management from my point of view, where it is now. Right now, I'm pretty optimistic about the overall field. I find that it continues to be challenged, as you probably have seen lately, right? The rise of do-it-yourself options out there. Like you have Robinhood and Stash and all that. You can, from your phone, just open up an account and start trading stocks today, right? Within probably like a minute or two. So the field continues to get challenged because there's all these different options. Besides do-it-yourself, you also have the robo-advisors, where you could just open accounts and they have like these algorithms that can manage a portfolio for you. So some people might think, well, why should I pay a wealth manager when I can just open up an account somewhere like at Vanguard or Schwab, and AI does all the investment for me, right? After I answer a few questions. But I am optimistic because I find that investment management is just one aspect of wealth management. Wealth management is the broader one. It involves just looking at your entire financial life, not just managing money, right? So I think that advisors now have to do more in order to better serve their clients and also justify whatever fee they're charging. And that includes looking at their tax situation. Are there any opportunities to help them save taxes during the year? Making any type of strategies that will help them save taxes tomorrow. Looking at their estate planning, maybe pairing them up with an estate planner just to make sure that there's a will in place, that all the beneficiaries are where they're supposed to be in the different accounts, that they have things like healthcare directives and powers of attorney in place. Just all these different things that go beyond just managing an account. But what I see today that I'm very happy to see is there's a lot of change because people like myself are able to open up their own firms. I'm pretty much a solo practitioner, but I don't work for a bank. I don't work for a broker dealer or a wirehouse. I have my own company. I'm completely independent. I only answer to my clients. Right? So I don't have to push a product on anybody. I don't have to have any sales. And another great thing too is the fact that I get to work with people who are not necessarily the ideal client for the typical wealth management firm, because they actually don't have a lot of assets to manage. The person that just graduated college, maybe they still have student loans, right? Maybe there's no $500,000 to invest yet, but you're still gonna need help understanding your 401k options at work, life insurance needs, your taxes. Should you do a Roth IRA versus a traditional IRA? All those kinds of things, right? That are typically overlooked in the traditional wealth management just because it was designed to help people that have a lot of money. So these are some of the changes that I'm seeing. I'm very excited about it. There's a growth in younger people entering the field. And I'm also seeing a lot of people are now, as advisors, focusing on a specific target audience, which is something that I feel like it's amazing because I hadn't seen that up until a couple of recent years ago, where now you see people that work specifically with, for example, like people in tech, and they really deep dive and understand stock options and IPOs, they could help those people specifically. The same way that doctors and lawyers do. I'm seeing that change in wealth management too. A lot of people working with very specific target audiences, which is great, because I feel like between that and the fact that technology was kind of forced on us with the pandemic, right? Now you have Zoom meetings became the norm. You can help people as a advisor from, people from anywhere. They don't necessarily need to be in your own zip code anymore, which has been another great thing for the field in general. So those are some of the things that I'm currently seeing that are great things in wealth management today. And then I want to talk about the CFP exam, but before I do so, I wanted to see if there were any questions or comments.
I was going to ask a question about the CFP exam, but I want you to explain it first, then I can ask you my question about that. So
okay, that sounds great. All right, so in order to work in wealth management, depending on where you work, you might be required to acquire a certain license. So to give you an example, if you work for, say, a company like, say, a Merrill Lynch or a Schwab or something like that, you might be required to have the licenses usually are under a series, so like a series 7, that's your stockbroker. I'm sure you guys know that already. So you might need like a series 7 or in a series 65 to work at a registered investment advisor, as an example. Now, that gives you what you need in order to become a registered investment advisor representative and call yourself a financial advisor. And you can do anything in terms of managing assets, provide financial advice, and so on. The certified financial planner designation is actually, for the most part, voluntary unless a firm requires it. But you technically don't need to be a CFP professional in order to work with clients and do financial planning and investment management. So for the most part, it's something that you just put yourself through it. It definitely helps you stand out. I feel like it's the gold standard because you're going above and beyond the minimum requirement that everybody else would do to get into the industry. And you make yourself learn about topics that go way beyond just managing assets. You know, there's retirement planning, tax planning, insurance planning, understanding employee benefits. You know, that's a major part of a client's life. They recently added a behavioral component to it. So just understanding people's behaviors and how you can help them as a part of the wealth journey. And once you get the CFP designation, then you open up yourself to have a lot more opportunities. That happened for me. You know, it's very rigorous to get there. They require a bachelor's degree. You also need to go through a course. You know, one of the things that I'm glad to see now that a lot of universities are offering a financial planning track, which is amazing. That was not the case at SUNY Purchase when I was going. So in addition to having my bachelor's, I also had to go through additional coursework. When I did mine, it was I started in September 1 year and I ended in May the next year. And it was kind of like going back to college. You know, I had several courses that I needed to take. And that satisfies the education requirement. Then you have to pass the exam. The exam is 170 multiple choice questions over 2 3-hour sessions. Now, don't let the fact that they're multiple choice fool you. Like, it really is rigorous. Like, you have to show your work. So you can't just go in there and like guess, see, and be good. Like, trust me, it's really hard. Even though to get to that answer, they give you those little blue pamphlets and you gotta just get in there with your calculator. You are allowed to use a calculator, but there are some formulas that you need to remember. Some formulas you can look at on a pre-printed sheet of paper, depending on what it is. But once you pass the exam, you also need to have a certain amount of hours of experience. Right now, it's 6,000 hours in addition to having passed the exam and also having the education requirement and meeting all the ethics requirements. Once you get the 6,000 hours, then you can apply to become a CFP professional and use the marks. There is a faster track. There's 4,000 hours. And that's if you're working directly under the supervision of another CFP professional. And all the work you're doing is client facing. You can shave off basically 2,000 hours, you know. So, and there's many different ways of getting that experience. Obviously, one of the easiest ways is to just go work for a company, ideally under the supervision of a CFP professional. You can also do things like volunteer for the VITA program. It's the income tax program that you can work with low-income earners to help them do their tax returns. Those hours count as well. And also, if you are part of a internship, you know, depending on where you work, if you're working for like a financial planning firm, you can get some hours that way as well. And what questions do you have about the CFP?
Okay, so I've asked this question, I think, to every speaker that has ever came in this club about, because even though I'm an accounting major, I might be pursuing going down the CFP route and actually maybe doing a minor in wealth management. But do people in the wealth management industry, do they look for people who are thinking about pursuing the CFP exam and the CFA exam, or just the CFP exam? Because I have heard from other speakers that came in here, they're like, oh, just do the CFP exam. Others like do CFA, others do both. But like, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, the way I look at it is, if you're going to be client facing, if you're going to be working directly with the end client, right, and you're going to help them with managing their assets and just financial planning overall, then the CFP designation will be the way to go. If you're going to do a crazy deep dive into like investment management itself, and you might work for a company at the corporate level and maybe not even work with clients, but you're going to be doing like research on investments and creating portfolios and things like that, then you do the CFA, you know, the Chartered Financial Analyst, because that's very super deep into investments. which you probably don't need that level of experience in investments if you're going to work with individual clients. That's the way I look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly. Yeah, the CFA is also another killer exam. I think it's about like 3 parts or something. Yeah, that's a big one. But normally, yeah, that's the way I would look at it. If you're going to work with people, then CFP is the way to go. A lot of companies now usually see the requirements are if you don't have a CFP designation, that at least you have completed some coursework toward it, or that you're working towards it in some capacity. And one great thing is that a lot of companies will sponsor you too, which is basically some of the advice that I would have if you're working, when you look at your career track, is I always say, get your education on somebody else's dime if you can. So if you can work for a company that you're gaining your hours, gaining experience, getting paid, and then on top of that, they're going to sponsor you for your CFP coursework, by all means, go for it. Do I see a hand? I think somebody has a hand up, or no? Okay. So in terms of the CFP designation, I want to tell you a little bit more about it as well. It's a very time-consuming experience when you're studying for it. So just to kind of prepare you, the greatest piece of advice I got was from one of my professors at the time. He said, you have to make this either number 1 or number 2 at the very least a priority in terms of your time, because it really does take that level of commitment to it. And it's harder if you are already working a full-time job, which I was, and then go home after 5, 6 o'clock and then give it 2, 3 hours a day when you're going for it. It's a lot. So I missed a lot of a lot of family functions while I was studying for the CFP. Also very common. I think only over 60-something% of people pass it the first time. So if you happen to go for it, have already tried and didn't pass, don't feel bad, because a large chunk of people that take it do not pass the first time. It's very common, and then it just makes you stronger, because now you know what you are facing. One of the things that I did to help me prepare was, in addition to taking the coursework, I signed up. They have review courses. So I took the Dalton review and I did it 2 days in person. So I was actually working with somebody that knew about the exam, and they were able to answer questions live. And then the other thing I found useful was I started taking a whole bunch of practice exams. The CFP board actually, I think they sell 2 copies of 2 different sets of exams that are composed of prior questions from different years. So you actually get to see like real questions that have been in other exams. And then I would time myself and I would practice and say, now I'm going to take it as if I'm taking the actual test. Let me take the first half, 3 hours without any interruptions, and time myself. Because when you start the second 3-hour session, you can't go back to the questions from the first session. So can't run to your car and look at, a question you weren't sure of or something. So that was the experience for me. Just like really make it a number 1 priority. Take practice exams as much as you can, and do a review course if you can as well. Very important. All right. So in terms of career advice, one thing I recommend is for you to network. One of the greatest benefits that I got was actually networking with other peers. I started attending things like the Financial Planning Association. They have a very student-focused organization, kind of like a sub-chapter called FPA NexGen. And the National Association of Personal Financial Advisors, NAPFA, they also have a NexGen sub-chapter, which is great because you get to work with people that are your same age, that are still either just started in wealth management or thinking about it. And you get to just network with a lot of people. I learned a lot from doing those, and some of it doesn't even have to cost you any money, right? You can join a Facebook group, like the Financial Planning Association has a Facebook group, and then you can just ask questions there. Another great thing is to get paired up with a mentor. The CFP board has a mentorship program. You go to cfp.net and they can pair you up with an actual CFP professional that's currently working as a practitioner. And, you can learn so many things because you don't have to make mistakes that somebody else already did. You just learn from what they did wrong or should have done, and then they pass that knowledge on to you and put you even faster in a career track, you know? So another thing to consider too is kind of get an idea of what you want to do if you can, because there are different paths to take. You know, do you want to manage money, or do you want to help people with making decisions about their finances? Because one of the things I learned early on was I didn't actually want to manage money in the traditional sense. Like, I didn't want to construct portfolios. You know, that's a full-time job in and of itself. Like researching stocks, researching ETFs, putting together a portfolio or several portfolios. A lot of RIAs do that in-house, and they have a team of people. They have somebody that's actually responsible for that, or they have like an investment committee that's several advisors from within the firm. I found that, you know, I'm a solo practitioner. I think that I can contract that out, right? And take advantage of technology, you know. So one of the things that I use, I don't know if you're familiar with the term TAMP. Let's say you that portfolio. So I found that that was a lot easier for me to kind of contract that out, because then I can actually focus on working with my clients on a day-to-day basis and helping them. Hey, let me do your taxes. Let's see what we can be doing today to help you save for your first home, or save for your children's education, or how to get out of debt, you know. So kind of get an idea. If you don't have an idea, then try to work for a firm that allows you to rotate, or at least shadow people in different departments, which maybe some mid-sized to larger firms will have different departments that allow you to do that. So then you get a sense of it, right? Because there's different paths you can go. You can go working directly with clients. You can go build portfolios. There's other parts of it as well. Like, you know, there's compliance. There's a technology part. There's a lot of companies that service financial advisors that provide technology, whether it's portfolio management software, things like that, financial planning software companies as well. All the different tools that financial planners can use, you know, so there's a lot of ways to go about it. So one great way to get that exposure is to get an internship. So I know that like Schwab and Fidelity have a pretty robust internship program geared towards students. I'm also the co-founder of an internship program. It's called BlatinX Internship. So it's for Black and Latinx students and career changers. We chose that specifically because when you look at the CFP board numbers, Blacks and Latinos only make up about 4.5% of all CFP professionals, so a very small number. And it doesn't really show the numbers when you look at the way the population of the US is made up of, you know. But you can still be part of our newsletter. You can join all of the webinars that we do with other organizations. So definitely check it out. It's blxinternship.org. And you can send us an email to info@blxinternship.org if you have any questions, and happy to help in any way we can. All right, hit me with some questions.
Anyone have any questions on Zoom before I ask my question? All right, I guess I'll ask my question at first.
So, wait, I have a question.
Oh, all right.
So I know you said that the CFP is for those who want to see client-facing positions, but also when job searching, I also found that, you know, SIE Series 7, a lot of these are also client-facing. Would you say maybe the CFP is for those who want to open up their own business and
say the CFP is the better option, even if you're not trying to open up your own firm. It definitely gives you that advantage. And it makes you a better planner as well. Like me having gone through the whole process of learning how to become a certified financial planner professional, taking the exam, and then just reading about all these different things gave me a much broader understanding than beyond the series exams that I took. So I'll consider it going forward eventually. But the good thing is that you don't need to have it immediately. You can just start working towards it later. Especially if you get hired at a company that will sponsor you for it, because it is expensive to obtain if you do it on your own.
Yeah, thank you very much for your answer. I'm going to college and it's like, oh, I get my degree, and then it's like, oh, I have all these exams now to take as well. And then there's like the final ball CFP. So it's like a continuous ladder, but awesome.
Yeah, and you don't need to like do it immediately. I would say get your series exams done, and then get the SIE for sure. And then a company can then sponsor you to do your 7 or your 65. And then later down the line, you could become a CFP, and just get somebody else to pay for it if you can.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
All right, I'll ask my question now. So I know some of our members here are actually, I think we have a couple in the room here right now who actually are freshmen, some are sophomores, I see in here. What would be the best advice to give to, actually, this is a two-parter, actually. The first one being, what advice would you give to a freshman or sophomore who is thinking about maybe going down the wealth management route, maybe majoring in finance, minor in wealth management, or possibly even thinking about majoring in wealth management? And the second part to that is, if you had to talk to yourself 10 years, probably maybe when you're back in college, what would be the one piece of advice you want to give your prior self?
Yeah, so I would say on the first part is, even if you didn't select the major in wealth management, if they allow you to take a course in it without declaring the major, I would say go for it just to get that exposure. Second thing is, if you can do an internship during the summer, check out Schwab, check out Fidelity. There's an organization called Diversitas. It's diversitasfp.org. I can email you afterwards if you want to send it over. But there's a lot of opportunities out there for you to do an internship during the summer that doesn't conflict with your school schedule, and then you get that exposure. And a lot of them are paid, actually. So you can get some money during the summer, get the experience, and then get that exposure. And then you'll know even more if that's something that you want to pursue further. Advice for me, I wish that I would have been more active in terms of networking with peers, because for 15 years, of the first 15 years of my career, I wasn't even on social media. I didn't have a LinkedIn account, nothing. I personally am not a huge fan of being on social media itself, the social aspect of it. I do like it for business purposes. So I put out a lot of educational content, but I wish I would have done that a lot sooner, because when I went on my own, I kind of had to start from scratch and building all these networks. And I wish that I would have already be going to local meetings, local meetups. You can join a chamber of commerce in your area, or any other group that is designed to network. I think trying to remember, I think BNI is one that's very big, if I'm not mistaken. But basically, there are groups out there that get formed with a whole bunch of professionals, typically one from every different career path, so that there's no competition within a group. So that way, if I would have done that before, I would have been in meetings with an estate planning attorney and a CPA, and then I would have been the only financial advisor in there, and that's another way to create growth. Ultimately, when I went on my own, I kind of wish I had more of those established networks. So I would say start networking as soon as you can with other peers and other professionals that could also then feed you business, right? Eventually.
Anyone on Zoom, any other questions? I think Joe, you have a question, for Lois. I believe, I don't know if you want to beat yourself.
I actually do have a question. Who is your typical client as a CFP?
Yeah, great question. So you have the ability, depending on where you work, right? If you work like myself, since I own my own company, I can target a specific client. So in my case, I usually work with people that are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s that are still in the building phase, asset accumulation phase of their lives. So people that are still working, contributing to their retirement funds and other funds for different goals for later, like home buying and things of that sort. So I'm kind of growing with my clients. Their lives are very dynamic right now. They're switching jobs every couple of years. They might be moving to different states, just starting a family. I personally like that aspect of it because you get to think outside the box a lot and help people with real life stuff, not just like, okay, give me your money and I'm going to put it in a portfolio. I really like when, people call and like, hey, I got this job offer and can you kind of help me make a decision to see if it makes sense to take? And we do a deep dive into the offer letter and their employee benefits, and they ask me questions like, I'm trying to have an addition to the back of my house because I'm having a baby. How should I go about it? Should I refinance my mortgage? Should I sell the house and buy a new one instead? So all these kinds of things that help you, think outside the box, help the clients kind of use you as a somebody that they just trust and call for a lot of things, sometimes even things that have nothing to do with finances because they trust your opinion, right? But if you work at, say, a bank, you may not have a choice into who your clients are, because you're an employee of the company. People just come through the door and they give them to you, and the same can happen with other companies where they might just feed you the business that comes in and you may not have a choice. But typically, they're individuals that you're working with, at different levels of wealth. If you work for a much larger company, they might focus on working with retirees. So it might already be people in their 60s and 70s that already accumulated a large amount of money throughout their lives. And now you're helping them kind of make sure that they don't run out of money in retirement, but also how to best leave that money if they have an interest in leaving money to their heirs or organizations, right? And also helping to minimize taxes while doing it. So it depends on where you work. But for the most part, yeah, if you're a CFP certificate, you're very likely working with individuals and you're helping them make decisions and then just look at their overall finances holistically.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have another question really quick. How does someone choose a wealth manager or advisor? Is it more like a speed dating thing, or do they just kind of go with the first person that they kind of choose? How does someone go about that process?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the word dating because I feel like there's a certain aspect of making sure that there is a match there in terms of if you're a good fit, because not everyone is going to have the same chemistry with you. So usually I tell people when they're looking for a financial planner, wealth manager, to speak to maybe at least 3 people and interview them, because it's very important that you're going to feel comfortable with this person, because oftentimes when you are in a financial planning process, you're going to have to say things that are very personal in nature because you're telling people, all of your goals, not your deep, darkest secrets, but you're telling people like your goals, sometimes, especially with couples, there might be some traumas from the past that cause people to be on a different page financially and the way they think about money, So I would say for the most part, most people probably go online today and they make a search, they might just type in financial advisor near me. The great thing about it now is that I don't feel like you should be stuck with just whatever's available in your area. If you're open to, as a client working with somebody that is not necessarily in a zip code. So part of the organizations that I belong to, for example, the CFP Board or the Financial Planning Association or the National Association of Personal Financial Advisors, part of being a member, you also get to create a portal as a financial advisor where you have your photo, your bio, contact info, and sometimes like your calendar link for clients to choose. So a lot of the times when people are searching, one of those portals might show up and then they can search for financial planners based on that. Some of the portals are still, I call them old school because they only let you choose by zip code, but there are other organizations as well. If they want like, I want a Spanish speaking advisor, or want somebody that works with younger clients or people that work with people in tech or whatever, and you can search by different specialties. So most people start online, but I would say, I would recommend, yeah, definitely go on a few dates, interview 3 people, and make sure that you feel comfortable with them and ask questions about them too. You know, it's a two-way street. You know, they're going to interview you to see if you're a good fit for them in terms of the type of client that they serve, but you also should be able to ask questions to make sure that they're a good fit for you. You know, ask, how do they get compensated? Do they sell products, or do they only charge a flat fee? Do they get paid from your investments? You know, things of that sort. Ask about their financial planning process. What does it include? How many meetings do you get per year? You know, do you work with them directly? Was it a team, or, you know, do they hand you off somewhere else after a while? Like, you want to know all those things. So there's definitely like a dating factor to it.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I think we have another question that they just came up to me and they asked me, or just they're
Awesome.
like, so I know we have, again, like I said, we have some young freshmen and sophomores here, and you know, I've always heard this because I'm an accounting major, and I don't know if this applies to all majors, but usually, you know, firms, they don't look for like interns for freshmen, but I've always heard, like, you know, there's always opportunity out there, you know, to get your name out there. Do you feel like for like a freshman, even though they're just getting used to, like, they don't know what majors they want to get in, do you still feel like they should be going out for internships at this stage, or do you feel like they need to like wait until like maybe sophomore year when they already think about like, okay, I think I know what major I want to go down, I want to do wealth management, I want to do this?
Yeah, a lot of firms, because they have an eye on hiring, sometimes they want to work with people that are already either juniors or seniors, because they could figure soon enough, if it's a good fit, they can make them an offer, you know, even if they have to wait until they graduate. But there are internships available that I see even people in high school, you know. So if you find an opportunity that allows you to be there as a freshman or a junior, I feel, freshman or a sophomore, I feel like you should take the opportunity, because, you know, if it's during the summer, it's not going to conflict with your school. You're going to get paid, get that exposure. The sooner you know if this is a path you want to go down, the better, you know, because you don't want to then switch your major and then realize it's not something you want to do, you know. So absolutely get exposed to the experience as soon as you can.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else on Zoom have any other questions? I don't want to pick on anyone, but you guys put in the chat if you guys want. Anyone? I actually will ask this one. How do you think time management is key to like anything you do in like college, even like wealth management or like anything in life? Like, do you feel like they need to start developing time management skills now, or do you feel like they, you know, it's like something you can just like learn on the way?
Yeah, you know, that's a great question. And this is one of the things that I wish I would have known sooner too, because very often, because of the type of work we do, or even in school, right? Like you have different classes and you have so many different projects you're working on simultaneously, we tend to multitask. And a lot of the times you're not really doing any of them, of the things you're supposed to do excellently, because you're putting so much time and effort into so many different things at the same time. So one of the things that would be very helpful is focusing on time management. Specifically, one of the things that you can do that I've learned that really worked well for me is just time blocking. You know, so I have now made it where, okay, I'm only going to answer emails from this time to this time today, or twice a day from this time to this time and this time to this time, right? That way I have a period of uninterrupted work. Even my social media, you know, I have times when I say, okay, I'm going to check, you know, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn from 4:30 to 5 at the end of the day. And I'll respond to anybody that commented on a post I made the day before or something like that. But I'm not constantly in reaction mode. And I think that's the key. You know, you have so many things coming at you, email notifications, WhatsApp, right? Everything's just pinging at you, text, emails. So if you can basically time block and manage your time, you have to stand guard at the door of your mind. You know, there's just so many things craving for your attention. And as you see now with social media, the algorithm is just going to keep feeding you more and more and more and go down that rabbit hole. So you want to make sure that you're more, I would say, intentional about your time, and say, you know, as a student, I'm going to do my communications homework from this time to that time, and then I'm going to write this paper, then I'm going to take an hour break. I'm going to eat and answer social media, right? And then get back on to writing the other paper, whatever it is, and then you want to take that into your professional life and be able to manage, the if you can, as much as you can, when you meet with people, when you answer emails and so on. Yeah, super helpful. Yeah, because I don't think we're naturally supposed to be multitaskers. It's just a result of the modern age we're living in.
And then another thing I would want to ask you, I know that, I think this was like towards a couple of months back. I know I've asked one speaker about this because I've heard that some firms are thinking about maybe going, 4 days in the office, 1 day remote, 3 days. Like, in your opinion, and I know in accounting, it's actually kind of wonky. It's actually some firms that want to do 3 days in the office, 2 in virtually, others that want to go full days in the office. Do you feel like, in your opinion, do you feel like it's better to have your internships or jobs in person or virtual or a combination of both? Because I personally feel like, in my opinion, that it should be in person, because you really get hands-on experience, you're able to learn on the job, instead of, if you're doing a virtual, you're getting sidetracked with distracted by a bunch of things that are going around. You're able to focus on your work.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I think in person there's no replacement for it. Obviously, we kind of were forced to it during the pandemic with Zoom and everything, but if you can get an in-person opportunity, or at least a hybrid version of it, I would definitely consider that, because it's really cool to be able to go into an office, sit in a client meeting. You get to see people's expressions, their body language, right? You get to see how just everything is done behind the scenes. You could log into a Zoom meeting, but you're only seeing a portion, right, of what really goes on. So there's no replacement for in-person. Obviously, if there's no other choice and the only opportunity is to do a virtual internship or something, obviously take it, because it is better than not having the experience at all. But certainly for the opportunity to go into an office. And also it helps you integrate in the culture of whatever company you're working for, because now you get to, be there with coworkers and just become part of the overall culture of the firm. And then it helps you too, because if that firm offers you a job, at least you got exposed to what it would be like working there. And then you can determine whether it makes sense to accept the offer or not.
Any last minute questions before I ask my final question? Anyone on Zoom? Mitchell, Joe, Kevin, anyone here in person? All right, I guess I'll ask this one. Oh my gosh, now I forgot it. Oh yeah. Do you have, because I know some of our students are in like the New Jersey Northeast area, is your firm offering any virtual in-person internships, that our students can actually, apply to, and hopefully potentially even get an internship with your firm, hopefully? Because I know that I've been pushing to all of our members that every time we have a speaker come here, connect with them on LinkedIn, go and look at their internship opportunities, apply and network. So does your firm have that, or is it somewhat like similar to that?
Yeah, so my firm, I do take on one intern per year, but as a founder of the BLX Internship Program, I participate in the BLX internship. So normally, a student or career changer would apply to the BLX Internship Program and then get matched with many firms, mine being one. So I already happen to have my intern for this year. She has a tax background, so it helps me because I do tax returns for my clients. So she actually does instead of a summer internship, we do a tax season internship, beginning February through mid-April. So I do have my intern, but I would say though that if you want access to more likely having a local experience, then I would say to search for the bigger firms like Fidelity and Schwab, because they're more likely to have in-person internships in your area. And I know that they have a very robust program that's very student focused. Those big companies like that. So I would look at those types of firms if you want something local.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, happy to connect with anyone on LinkedIn. And if you ever want to reach out one-on-one separate from that, just if you have any questions, happy to then just do another Zoom call or chat with you.
Yes,
Fidelity was a great company. I actually was going to work at Fidelity, but I had to turn it down. But the whole interview process was so amazing, and the opportunity there was also great.
Oh, nice. I'm glad to hear that.
think our members will definitely do that after today's meeting. Hopefully we'll connect with you. Any final questions from Zoom, in person, once, twice, thrice? All righty. Well, thank you so much, Louis, for coming in and speak to us today. We really appreciate all the advice you gave us. And yeah, thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, my
Thank
pleasure.
you
I just
so
want
much.
to thank you for having me. I want to leave you with these parting thoughts. I would say if you get an opportunity to either intern or work at a firm, keep in mind that it's a two-way street. Like, yes, you're there and you're learning, but you too bring a lot to the table. You know, just because you may have not had the experience of working before in that type of field doesn't mean you don't have any other transferable skills or ideas. You know, so the reason I mention that is because you should have some initiative. If you see like a process that could be made differently, faster, smoother, feel free to bring it up and come up with an alternative for it. Say, hey, I noticed you guys do meetings this way, you know, why don't we do them this way? Like, you know, challenge them too in a good way, but it shows initiative. And I think sometimes you might be able to create opportunities for yourself because you are inquisitive and you have that initiative, you know, so just keep that in mind.
We will definitely do that. But again, thank you so much for coming and speak to us today.
My pleasure. You guys have a great time. Anybody wants to look me up on LinkedIn, just look for Louis Rosa Financial Planner. I'm sure I'll pop up.
Yes, they definitely will. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Will do. Have a good day, sir. Thank you.
You too. Thank you. Nice meeting you all.